Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And Stoney.
Hello.
And today, just like we said last week, we have a very important guest and a very big topic.
An amazing guest.
Please take it away, Stoney.
Again, everybody, welcome to Retrospect. We're going to dive deep in one of the most pressing issues of our time, exploring the Israeli conflict in 2023. Today, we have an exceptional guest with us, Rabbi Barry Weinstein, who brings a unique perspective and profound insights to this complex topic. Rabbi Barry, thank you for joining us today.
I am honored to be here. Thank you.
And we did a great little intro last week into our relationship and how much I adore you and how much you mean to Miranda, Hottie Doctor, and I. With your extensive knowledge and experience, you really do provide a remarkable perspective into the Israeli conflict of our year. Can you share with us a bit about your background and kind of what initially drew you and brought us, together to do this topic today?
I'm glad to do so, and again, I'm honored to be here. I have always been, in my consciousness, aware of Israel. Mm-hmm. I was born in 1942, so I was 6 years old when Israel was proclaimed a nation in 1948 by the United Nations. I subscribed in our little religious school to a magazine that I don't know if it's still aware, some of our listeners may know, called World Over. And we had wonderful articles in this little magazine about the nation of Israel. My late brother Eliyahu, Alav HaShalom, may he rest, was very instrumental in my life, helping me to know and love and learn about Israel. Eliyahu sponsored me on my first trip to Israel in 1962, Hanukkah of 1962. Oh, wow. I was in my junior year at Madrid, the University of Madrid, donde habla español. Así que podría hacer todo esa entrevista en español, but I won't do it all in Spanish.
Right.
And he sponsored me on my first trip to Israel, Hanukkah of 1962, from Marseille, France, to Israel on a Turkish ship called Adana. It was so rough. The sea was so rough. And on the ship were hundreds of Moroccan Jews escaping from virulent anti-Semitism in Morocco.
Wow.
They were part of our ship. When I got to Haifa, I bent down and I kissed the ground. I was so grateful to be there. Mm-hmm. I visited with my family, the Himmelshine family, and their kibbutz at Tel Yosef in the Jezreel Emek, Valley of Jezreel, and heard the stories of how when they arrived from Cyprus in the early 1940s, no weapons, no power at all in terms of defensive stuff. They set up water pipes, big water pipes that would look like cannon from across the way where the Arabs were bombarding them.
Wow.
Israel's survival is a miracle every day, I believe. Israel would fit into Louisiana 4 times.
Wow.
The square mileage of Israel is 1/4 of our state. It is like smaller than New Jersey.
Wow.
Israel, every day for me, its survival, for which I pray every day, is a miracle, surrounded by nations that don't like it except for a pretty good peace still with Jordan and with Egypt. But right now, seeing pictures on the video of Hamas coming in to the peaceful nation of Israel, slaughtering people, decapitating persons, adults, and slaughtering babies, this defies our imagination. And were we not to see it in the videos, we wouldn't believe it. It's from a horror tale. that people would want to come into peaceful Israel, survivors of the Holocaust, and slay them in their homes. It is revisiting the Holocaust. It's bringing the Holocaust from 75 years ago back to our reality today. This is why I'm so grateful to participate in this podcast and help to share my views of Israel and my experience of being there, living there for a year with my wife as a rabbinical student in Jerusalem, and answering whatever questions or concerns you all might have.
It's crazy that we live in a time now where social media and like the ability to have videos and pictures and stuff like that be so immediately available of conflicts like that happening. You know, like you were saying 75 years ago with the Holocaust, like that. You know, not everyone knew about, I guess, all the atrocities that were going on until, probably many years later. And it's
yes,
crazy
the New York Times would have Holocaust stories buried in the newspaper, like page 6, page 8, at the bottom of the fold.
Right, and it's crazy to think that we live in today as this is all evolving and changing.
And people denying that the Holocaust ever happened.
Exactly.
So-called Holocaust revisionism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, and it just hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that we live in a time now where it's so readily available.
Well, the Vietnam War was the first true televised war.
I know.
Right.
And that created a sense of almost instant gratification on the news and the war, and that brought on its own things, having that information and the pictures and the video right there in front of you. And with what we have today, Ian mentioning the internet and social media, these things are right in our face.
And we're in a period, unfortunately, of increased anti-Semitism, hatred of Jewish people in our beloved America. And as it will happen, Israel will go in to Gaza. It has to. It has to conquer Gaza. And I'd like to talk more about Gaza later if we can.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And its particular history. I was with someone today who is a native of Gaza. We were in a certain meeting, and I'm going to have lunch with him in a couple days so that he can continue to air his concerns, deeply felt, about Israel. And I arranged for us to have lunch so that we can continue our relationship. But these feelings are very deep, and I certainly respect and understand them. But Israel gave back Gaza in the summer of 2005, and my late brother, Eliyahu, predicted that was going to be a inflection point, if that's the right word. And he was right, because the day that right after Israel withdrew peacefully from Gaza, the next day, the rockets fell on southern Israel.
Wow.
Israel gave back the Sinai Peninsula, where I have traveled and camped out. The Sinai Peninsula is larger than all Israel. Gave it back, and gave back the Golan, all in exchange for peace. So Israel is not land hungry. And the anti-Semitism, unfortunately, all around us, depicts Israel as imperialistic and land-grabbing. All Israel wants is to live in peace.
If I may on that also, and this is extremely horrible, the anti-Semitism, but it's also hatred of America too. Hamas and Hezbollah and a lot of these countries that support this hate Israel and hate America. And even in America, when you see some of the protests that are happening in our colleges and our big cities, it's not just hatred of Israel, it's hatred of America also. We have 4 women in political offices that hate Israel and hate America, and I'm surprised. Why are they still in office? Why haven't we removed these people from office? If you hate America and you hate Israel so much, bye-bye. Go away.
Well, I'm going to add something here, because we're talking about America and kind of what's the pulse right now. I found this poll literally this afternoon that I thought was very alarming. But to me, it does paint a picture of kind of the future. It says here, this is a Harvard-Harris poll. in general, in this conflict, do you side more with Israel or Hamas?
Mm-hmm.
The poll goes with age 65 plus. 95% support Israel, 5% Hamas. And it goes down 55 to 64, 91% to 9%, 45 to 54, 88%, 12%.
That's a big jump.
35 to 44, 78% to 22%. 25 to 34, 71%, 29%. And what's alarming, 18 to 24. So this is the generation coming up. 52% to 48%.
Wow.
Yikes.
So you see a trend.
Can you send me that when you get time?
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be right now. I would like to have that.
I was looking at this. I said, "You've got to be kidding me." I mean, because if this is what's coming up, because these people are being brainwashed with this anti-Semitic type stuff. I mean,
So
it just
what, if I may, what is causing that drastic swing from one to the next? Like, is there?
I personally think is what's going on in higher ed.
Okay.
I really
agree.
do. I think there is a concerted effort at those levels that there is some
feels,
indoctrination going on.
It feels counterintuitive to me for what feels like younger generations to be so open-minded and so equality-driven and so.
Well, the very same people that are pro-Palestinian would die there. This is a large group of your gay and lesbians and your transgender and all of this group that is supporting and pro-Palestinian don't realize they would die. They do not support the people that are pro them aren't pro you. And the younger generations today are looking for something to protest, and they really don't care, and they're not getting full knowledge on what they're trying to protest. They don't know about the nation of Israel because they won't go out there and learn it. We're very lucky today because, as Miranda said in the last episode, we have a historian with us.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you some questions.
Jason said, I can't wait to pick his brain. And I said, Rabbi Barry will love to have his brain picked. So knock yourself out. Tell us about the generation. You know, we found out today are from the silent generation. How has this support or lack of support changed over the last 70 years?
Yes, there's been a radical change. And
what do you attribute it to also while you're in that vein?
I attribute it to the tremendous influence of the media, which has been contrarian against Israel. In general, there have been books and articles written about the media prejudice, more than a bias, a prejudice against the nation of Israel. And the media generally shows episodes from Israel's history, and even now, of Israel gunning down people and so forth, excerpting out of context when Israel has had to defend itself. Thankfully, we are seeing video as well of Hamas slaughtering Israelis. And I regret and mourn this and grieve for all of those and the families. But those videos are really important. Not since the Holocaust have Jewish homes been invaded and people slaughtered in their homes and on the streets.
I would like to add something to that, and I love the way you're going to the media on this because I believe that's actually the greatest enemy to America is our media. But there was a hospital that was bombed in Gaza.
That's right.
And the media ran with it. They said 400 people have been killed by the Israelis. And then all of a sudden, and the media ran with this for 2 days. They ran with this saying, how horrible is Israel? How could they do this? This is a hospital. And then all of a sudden, we find out that it was actually a missile fired from Gaza. And now that they realize that it was the Hamas that fired the missile, it was only a dozen people that died in the hospital. Come on, media. Where is your responsibility? Where is your responsibility to just the truth? Why can't you tell the truth?
This is why this podcast is so very important and so current and timely, and I really appreciate your arranging this and inviting me. Listeners must contact President Biden, our representatives in the Senate and Congress, and emphasize for them how critical is the need for support of Israel. Without the United States, clearly, Israel would, God forbid, go down. Israel is now in an existential crisis. In my opinion, and in the opinion of others more wise and scholarly than myself,
If possible.
Israel is in an existential crisis. The existence of the nation of Israel is at stake. I have family in Israel living just outside Tel Aviv. They hear the rockets every day coming over their home. They see the trails of the rockets. They're constantly in their safe rooms. And we've learned that the safe rooms aren't so safe anymore and can be invaded. We're in a critical time for this nation and for those listening to this podcast to let others know that we must let our elected representatives know of our support for Israel. Israel's existence as a nation, a sovereign nation, is clearly at stake. Hamas, in its charter, it is written, its goal is to wipe out Israel and push it into the sea. This is, to me, so terrible and horrible because Israel is the Jewish homeland. Right. Israel was created after the Holocaust as a safe place so that, quote, never again would the Jewish people face extermination as we did in Holocaust when we lost over 6 million. That's the number of Jewish people in America today. It's as if, God forbid, the Jewish people in America were to be murdered, God forbid.
Right.
So these are the numbers that you don't hear in the media, and the media doesn't at all give the kind of perspective that this podcast is giving.
I'm curious. I kind of want to back up a little bit, and it's part of me of picking your brain. Can you kind of provide a historical perspective of how did we kind of get to this point with Israel? I mean, I understand it kind of goes back to World War I and all that. Can you help me with that and kind of bring us to where we're at today?
After World War I, there were several mandates. The French mandate created Syria and so forth. The mandate that created the state of Palestine was very important. In 1947, November of 1947, the United Nations resolution created the foundation for a free state of Israel to be partnered with a free Arab nation to be called Palestine. The day after that United Nations resolution in late November of 1947, the bombs began to fall on Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was blockaded by the Arabs. They were angry that the United Nations had supported the stealing of Arab land from the Arab world. And without the support of Great Britain, Canada, and the United States, Israel would have fallen in December of 1947. And in my opinion, every day since, Israel's survival is nothing less than a miracle, thanks to the ongoing support of the United States, Britain, Canada, and several other nations. Later, we have the several succeeding wars in 1956, the Suez Campaign, the Six-Day War in 1967, the horrible surprise attack on the Sabbath of Yom Kippur, so-called Yom Kippur Campaign in 1973, which took Israel. Israel was still gliding on its euphoria from the Six-Day War, and in 73 suffered terrible losses. And then we had the intifadas through the 90s, And now we have this horrible crisis, which is shadows, again, I believe, and others, of the Holocaust. The existence of Israel is on a precipice today.
And also we can't ignore the fact that while this is kind of contained, this is a little bit bigger.
This is way bigger.
This is a little bit bigger. So I think Iran is intimately involved in this also. And if you'd like to maybe touch on that a little bit.
I believe we are, God forbid, on the eve. I don't like to speak this way, but this is a very frank, honest discussion here. I believe we're on the eve of a very long, protracted beginning of World War III.
Yeah.
I'm so frightened and fearful because now we have the Middle East. We will soon have Iran. And then what about Russia?
Yeah.
And I see this spreading as a contamination in that part of the world that will spread, God forbid. Russia has its eye on Poland, and Russia and the Ukraine is going on as we speak. And I fear that now we're in for long struggle for democracy in that part of the world. Israel's the only democracy in that part of the world.
That's right.
It is threatened with extinction as we speak. So I see this as on a greater, larger scale, if we zoom out a bit, as a struggle for democracy to survive in the Middle East. And Israel's existence is at stake in this struggle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Israel has Arabs in the Knesset, Arabs in the parliament. Arabs are citizens of Israel. I've traveled, I've lived in Israel. I've met with Arabs in Bethlehem and in the old city of Jerusalem. I've prayed with Arab Israelis at the Western Wall. Israel is not an apartheid state. It's totally the opposite. I was ill on my latest trip a few years ago and went to the Hadassah Hospital on Mount Scopus. In the next bed were Arabs. In the next bed over there were Europeans and Americans, all being treated by Israel. Israel at the Good Fence up on the border with Lebanon has helped people escape over at night from Lebanon to get treated by Israel. These are facts that we don't see in the media.
Where's the media? I was fixing to say,
exactly.
I'm thinking the same thing. Where's the media on all this? Why aren't they showing that?
The media is against Israel, and there are books and articles you can read about this.
I'm confused as to like I don't understand why. And I know it is not a simple answer to give, but it's interesting to me.
I'd like to give you the answer that my professor of anti-Semitism many decades ago at Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in Cincinnati, gave us and wrote on the board. 2,000 years of anti-Semitism. And we have another podcast maybe where we'll talk about biblical anti-Semitism and the roots of anti-Semitism, which I could certainly talk about. But 2,000 years of anti-Semitism inevitably led to the Holocaust. 2,000 years of anti-Semitism has led to this media prejudice against Israel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if we were to go out on the street and stop a passerby, he or she would think, well, the Israelis are just being antagonistic and they're just killing people right and left, because that's what the media shows. That's why this podcast is so urgent.
That's good to hear, because it makes sense when you put it that way. Because for me, it again, like I said a little while ago, is that especially coming from media and coming from people that I feel like try to be equality focused and try to be inclusive. Inclusivity is a big thing that I hear a lot about. And again, speaking against anti-Semitism in some way, or or at least the Holocaust and all those things, like I feel like we all can agree that was a tragic time. It was awful, but that's why I'm so surprised to hear now that apparently the numbers are saying that people that are younger than me are are against those people.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, I don't.
Yeah,
it's
the
so-
data that's not good. If
Right.
you're showing such a wide disparity between people that are 65 plus to 18 to 20 to 18 to 24, whatever the number was. I mean, that's the up and coming.
Well, you know what?
That's the
Ronald
up-and-coming
Reagan said it
generation. I
best.
mean-
Ronald Reagan said it best. We are one generation away from losing all of our freedoms in this country. And these generations popping out now are proving that to us. They're proving it to us with the social media, with the woke agenda, with the anti-Semitism. They are looking for a reason to cause problems and to have things given to them for free because they think that's the answer. And we need to have this inclusivity and all this, oh, woe is me, and I'm hurting, and somebody needs to worry about my feelings. I'm sorry, get a helmet.
Well,
Okay, I'm so tired of this wokeness and these. How do you hate a whole? You want a whole country pushed off into the Dead Sea. You want America to burn to the ground, and we have to like that and let you do that and let you feel that way, and we have to feel, oh, the poor baby. No, enough is enough. And I'm growing tired
well,
of
that's
it.
what aggravates me about like Hamas and these groups. They hide behind civilians.
Mm-hmm.
They hide behind hospitals, and when
Well,
you
they're
gotta
not
go-
allowing the civilians to leave.
Exactly.
Israel said, hey, the
You know,
civilians can come here
you know-
out of Gaza, and they won't even let them. Israel offered
I'm a person of-
what is it, an olive branch?
Right,
Yeah, an
right.
olive branch of peace to let the civilians come and be safe.
I'm a person of honor. You put your soldiers on the battlefield, we'll put our soldiers on the battlefield and we'll fight it. That's
right.
how you fight war. You don't
right.
go hide behind hospitals and churches and synagogues and everything else, or wherever you want to, mosque or whatever, and then complain when things happen. War is supposed to be soldier to soldier, open.
Well, they
between
don't live
each
by
other.
the same moral compass that we do, nor do they have the same value on human life that the Israels and the Americans have, and some of the other countries in the world. They don't have that, okay? They see that as a tool. They see women and children as a tool. There is actually a video that's come out that says showing Hamas terrorists admitting gunmen were ordered to behead and do whatever you want with the victims.
It's just as bad as.
Okay, can you imagine that?
That's like Nazi
that's
their
like
Nazi
standing.
Germany.
That's their standing order because they do not value human life the way we do.
I mean, that's.
And this is
I
just.
don't- I mean, I don't understand why people just.
That's why
we
I
have
was-
to kill one. I mean, I do not understand this hatred that just infects these people. I mean,
Well, it's
I don't get that.
The
I don't
very same
understand
people
that.
that are pro Hamas and care, tolerant of their activities don't realize that the Hamas would not be as tolerant for their lifestyles. Think about that for a minute. Okay, you're supporting somebody that would kill you. You are tolerating somebody that would kill you.
Israel has bent over backwards in catering
Multiple times.
to these groups.
Multiple times.
And I'm a firm believer Israel needs to go in there and take care of business. I don't care what the world says. You got to go in there and take care of business.
about this. I'm done with the political correctness. There was a cartoon that came out years ago that has Hamas rocketing Israel. Hamas rocketing Israel. Hamas rocketing Israel. Hamas rocketing Israel. Israel attacks back, and Hamas goes, Israel started it. Nah, bullshit. Okay, it's time. We don't need to be politically correct in this with a woke agenda. I personally believe Israel should have already been in there and killed a whole bunch of people. I personally believe that Hamas and Hezbollah and a number of other these groups are pure terrorists that want to cause nothing but death and destruction in the world. And they do this on the basis of, I'm a terrorist, I'm going to go to Muslim heaven, and I'm going to get 72 virgins.
That's such a corruption.
And once I'm dead, my family is going to be taken care of for the rest of their life. The families of the 9/11 terrorists are still being taken care of. Think about that for a minute. We found out within days who those terrorists were, and their families are still being taken care of by the terrorist conglomerate. Okay? I personally believe, and I'm sorry, this is my opinion. This is not the opinion of the Retrospect podcast. This is Stony. This is my opinion that political correctness needs to stop. There needs to be an organization in America and Israel, or however you want to do it, that when a terrorist happens, very quietly, you go kill his grandparents. You go kill his parents. You go kill his wives, all of them, all of his children, his goats, the fat, ugly, buck-toothed bitch he took to the prom. You kill everybody. And eventually, people are going to want to stop being terrorists. You don't even need to televise it. You don't even need to put it on the media that's not going to tell the story right. Eventually, the other terrorists are going to realize, oh my, maybe I don't want to cause this problem for my family, and they're going to stop doing it.
I think the only thing that's going to do is just make martyrs of their belief. I don't think that's going to fix anything.
Eventually, if you kill everybody's family, somebody's going to stop being a terrorist.
I don't believe that killing more people is going to fix the problem. I don't think killing people's family and children is going to help fix this problem.
They're doing it.
It will only make you just as bad as they are. And as a follower of Jesus Christ, that goes against everything that I believe in and everything that I stand for. You will never get to someone through hatred and murder and all of that. I think that you can only get to someone through love and through compassion and through understanding and through trying to find some sort of middle ground between them. And I'm not saying it's always perfect, that's always able to happen, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And I think that immediately going straight to killing them is not the option.
Well, you know what? They don't have the same moral compass as
Israel,
I mean, you're right.
Israel has a very high, as the Jewish people do, we have a very high value of life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Israel, not long ago, exchanged over 1,000 prisoners in Israel's prisons in exchange for one Israeli to get him out of the hands of the terrorists. Mm-hmm. Israel places a very high value on human life. Mm-hmm. And I believe that Israel, like me, is very hesitant to have to take any life. But right now, Israel is in a defensive war, and we could spend a lot of time on the biblical precepts about offensive and defensive wars in the Hebrew Bible. Mm-hmm. Israel must carry on this fight, and much as I am sorry to say it, I'm ready for the incursion into Gaza, and God bless the Israeli soldiers who are going to be wounded and hurt in this dismal operation. Mm-hmm.
But the best defense is a good offense.
That's right.
They're going to have to get rid of all them tunnels.
Yes. Yes, they've got to get rid of those tunnels too.
Must retake Gaza. My late brother Eliyahu, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, said we're going to rue the day that Israel left Gaza.
I have a question. We know this ground incursion is going to come, and there's many other Muslim states around Israel and Gaza. Why don't these countries want the Palestinians?
Nobody wants the Palestinians.
Why won't they let them come? America, under the Biden administration, is the only country that says we'll take the Palestinians. Now, remember, this is an administration that has an open border that has let in so many people. I think over the last month, what did we see? 200 and almost 300,000 people have illegally come into America. Oh, yeah. Okay, we won't pay our veterans. We won't pay our older Americans. We won't help our own poor people. But now the Biden administration has come out and said, we'll take those million Palestinians, we'll pay for them to come to America, we'll transport them over here, and we'll give them X amount of dollars to start their life here in America. Now, these are American and Israel-hating people that would love nothing to burn both countries to the ground. But yet the Biden administration is making all the American citizens in Israel sign a promissory note saying that they will pay back transportation costs to get them out of Israel. Why won't other Muslim countries take those Muslim people?
Because the other Muslim countries have always disowned the Palestinians. I don't understand the rationale for that. I cannot fathom why they won't. I'm not enough of a scholar of Mideastern history to answer that question.
Could it be the same as in Israeli history? We created a state for them. We gave them some land. We gave them some land again, and they still attack us.
I think that's part of it.
Is Syria and these other countries going, we don't want them because as soon as we let them in ours, they're going to start attacking us too because we're not giving them something for free?
That could be, but it's a real shame and it's a pity. It is a real pity. Generations from now, people will look back on the Arab lands who refused to open their borders to these Palestinians. They certainly deserve to have a home, as Israel agreed to give them a home the day of the 1947 United Nations resolution in late November of 47. But the Arabs rejected it. And with the exception of Jordan and Egypt, as I mentioned earlier, that continues to be the case. So
I have another question for you now that I've opened that can of worms. A large percent of the Jewish population tends to vote Democrat, knowing that this administration wants to let so many Jewish-hating people into America and pay their way here. And also the Biden administration left almost how many billions of dollars of weapons and ammo and equipment that has now been used to attack Israel. What do we do now? How does the Jewish community feel about this, and what can we do?
Well, the Jewish community in America is largely a liberal Jewish community. And I identify with a lot of those values of liberal Jewish life. I'm a liberal, reform, progressive Jewish man myself. But
one day I want a definition on that. Not today, but another day I want a definition.
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be another podcast for
it
sure.
might be.
That would be
that
really
would be an informative one, huh?
Yeah, that would be interesting. But sure, I support the liberal values in general, but I do not agree with the largely democratic, the partisan views of Democrats. And I don't feel the same as many liberal American Jews do politically. I guess if I were to label myself, it would be more on the conservative side politically, in great support of Israel and Israel's survival. I don't understand my friends in the Jewish community who are so liberal that they make such statements contrary to Israel.
Will this change some of that mentality, do you think? Will this
I wish that it would, but I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it because, the history that I've mentioned just in outline form isn't known by lots of people who are younger, in their 30s, 40s, or even their 50s. Americans, including Jewish American Jews, don't have good historical perspective, don't understand and don't study history as I have all my life, and they don't realize that the existential survival of Israel is at stake today. That's just a fact that most of us who understand Israel and Jewish life over those centuries that we understand. And it's lost in the media, and it's not often discussed. That's why this podcast, I hope, God willing, will be widespread, that people will realize that we're at a precipice, a very existential moment for the survival of the Jewish homeland.
Well, if I may intervene a little bit there about what you're saying, I think a portion of that also may be the fact that I think religion is not as prevalent in the U.S. as it used to be. I think, and that may be, at least that's from a more Christian outlook. I'm not sure what it may be for the Jewish community as well, but I have met a few people that were that were raised Jewish, but of course didn't hold up any of like the kind of religious practices that they would do, and I didn't quite understand that. But then again, looking back in communities and places that I've been a part of, it's the same sort of ways. They may have grown up in church, but again, now that they've grown up, they've gone away from it. I feel like the U.S. has kind of like really moved into that direction that I think may have maybe influencing what's happening right now with
Well, Ian, you're focusing on one of the main reasons I became a rabbi.
Really?
Because I want Jewish life to survive.
Yeah.
And I am working very hard in my life as a congregational rabbi and as a community member to help the Jewish people survive. And that is a sine qua non for me. Mm-hmm. That is a raison d'etre for me. And we're only 6 million Jews in America. Thank God we are 6 million. We have a low birth rate. And I'm devoting my life, my professional career, to the survival of our people. And yes, synagogue attendance is down, just like church attendance is down. Mm-hmm. But we must do all that we can, me as a rabbi particularly, to help our people live and survive.
Right.
I've got on that same Harris poll, and I want to bring this up because I think this also taps into the changing thoughts on this.
Yeah.
The question is, do you think that the attacks on Jews were genocidal in nature or not genocidal? That 65 plus showed a 84% to 16%. That 18 to 24, 62 to 38.
Golly.
So it's just showing you how younger people are viewing this conflict now,
right,
versus older people.
And that was my original question, was like, how do we get to that point where like everyone that is in that age bracket thinks so differently? Like, it's so interesting to see that
this happened in the Vietnam War.
I mean,
it was the same young group of people that were anti-war, anti-this, they were supporting the North Vietnamese. They were saying, "Oh, America's bad. I can't believe America's doing this." It was, what's her name?
Jane Fonda.
See, you read my mind still, don't you? Jane Fonda goes over to North Vietnam, goes into the prisons, sees our POWs in there. They slip her note saying, "Help us, we're being tortured." She leaves and hands it over to the jailers. She gives all the notes to the jailers. This woman should, when the day she came back into the States, she should have been arrested and put in jail and should still be there. It's the same stupidity that people have, an uneducated and willing to find out facts and believe in this media group now that wants to hate America because it doesn't sell newspapers to love America.
They want a different America.
They want a different America. And they don't realize that the very same people that they're supporting would take away their First Amendment first.
Yeah.
Hitler proved that. What did he do? He took over the healthcare system. He took the media over. He took over the car industry, and he took the guns away from people. Where does that sound like?
Yep.
What does that sound like? Mm-hmm. Sounds like America today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we're people wonder, how did they let Hitler do that? They stood by and watched these atrocities. We're doing the same thing in America today. People are standing by and watching and going, "Ooh, wow, look at that."
Well, I mean,
look at that. I got a question for you, Rabbi Barry. With everything we've been talking about, how do you balance the emotional toll of discussing such a challenging topic while maintaining a constructive and hopeful outlook?
The national anthem of Israel is called Hatikva.
Hatikva. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Tikva. Tikva in Hebrew means hope.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is a necessary ingredient for all of us, but especially for Jewish people around the world. And I balance my concerns by lots of prayer, meditation, participation in Jewish life and Jewish worship, thank God, and by continuing to have hope. Hope is the essential ingredient for all of us, but especially for Jewish people. And I want to insert here my emphasis and my stress that I mourn the death of every person who dies, every child, whether that child be Bedouin, Israeli, American, Arab, Palestinian. I mourn each of those deaths, and I grieve for them. I wish that our world had not come to this terrible precipice, and I cannot rid my mind of nightmares of watching Israelis in their homes being attacked by marauders who do these vicious, brutal acts against Jewish people and Jewish children, Jewish babies. How can we even imagine that in our own country? And yet at the same time, as we've said on this podcast, we must, at least I, from my own personal opinion, America needs our help and our support in every way, even with our foibles and all of our mistakes. I think democracy is really at stake today. And to answer your question, I reserve hope as my anchor and my wish. And the national anthem of Israel is based on hope, and that there will be always this land that is the home of our ancestors from biblical days on.
Right.
I believe in God's promise that this can be and should be the place where Jews can live peacefully. And that's all Israel wants. All Israel wants is to be able to live peacefully on that small parcel of land, smaller than the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
You look at a map, we're not on TV, but when we get on TV, I'm going to bring my map.
Thank you. I like that. Speak it to existence. When we get on TV.
When we get on
It's
TV, I'll
coming.
have my map of that area. And you'll see, as Netanyahu did years ago when he had the map on TV, he put his thumb over Israel, over Israel on his big map of the Middle East.
Wow.
What does the Jewish community that you serve and your people that you're around, how do they feel about Prime Minister Netanyahu? Do they feel like he's doing a good job, or what's kind of the feeling on that?
As I mentioned, in terms of my own political leanings, I'm more on the conservative side, and so I respect Netanyahu. He has a tremendous challenge in front of him. Israel is a true democracy. Arabs in the parliament. Arabs have the right to vote. Arabs are full citizens. And I'm thinking in my mind of a conversation I'll be having at lunch with my friend from Gaza, which will be disputing a lot of things that I'm saying today. But nonetheless, I respect Netanyahu, and I believe he is the elected leader right now today. And I support him, but most of the American liberal Jewish community is not in his favor.
Really? Wow.
In my opinion, I'm not an expert, and I'm ready to be corrected by anyone that sends in comments to this podcast, but I think the many of our liberal American Jewish people are not happy with him.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, from your just what you've gathered, what do they find they don't like about him? I mean, well,
he sided with Israel is a theocracy. Israel has a national religious party, which is the Orthodox religious party. And it's hard for us as Americans, especially if we haven't lived there, to realize this. There's not church-state separation, if you will, in Israel.
Right.
The state religion is the Orthodox Jewish religion. And we do have a growing reform, progressive, liberal Jewish movement in Israel. Our main campus in Israel, the Hebrew Union College on 13 King David Street, is a bastion and the home base for liberal Reform Judaism in Israel. We have several Reform Jewish synagogues throughout Israel and kibbutzim, kibbutzes that are liberal in their Jewish religious establishment. But Netanyahu sides with the National Religious Party, which is very orthodox. And so that offends the American Jewish liberal points of view
Right.
on topics such as conversion and Jewish identity. And that deserves another whole podcast.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
very
that's a big
complicated.
topic.
Yep.
I'm oversimplifying now, for which I apologize.
No, that's okay. It's not a simple. This isn't just a simple thing we can fix. This isn't a simple answer to a question. But I don't think that more death is not going to help us in the long run. I feel like loving and caring about people is what's probably going to, I think, help. But I don't have a simple.
We've been at war, unfortunately. I mean, we've been at war with Islam. I mean,
Yeah.
put it the way it is.
Oh, what
Probably
was-
since
what was
going
Thomas
back
Jefferson-
1,000 years ago. I mean,
Think about this. Thomas Jefferson became president. What was the first thing he had to do?
the Barbary
He
Pirate.
had to take the newly formed Marines, go to the Barbary Pirates,
That's right.
kill them, and then you don't hear from the Muslims for another 60 or 70 years after he did that. Why? Because he taught them a lesson. Don't do that. And we didn't hear from them again.
Yeah, 'cause
that
they were-
was one of Thomas
they were taking
Jefferson's.
slaves.
Yeah, they were taking slaves. They were raping, killing
Mm-hmm.
Americans and Jews. And he went down there and said, no. One of his first acts as president, Mr. History buff over here.
Yeah.
That to me is if you,
Right, and the only thing I was saying is that yes, there are moments in history where I feel like that is necessary, and I feel like I'm not saying that what's going on right now is not that there is no need for violence right now, but what I'm saying is that I think also is finding some way for peace is a very important thing.
I think Israel wants peace. The
Yes.
problem
I
is
know.
the other side, they don't want peace. They want to wipe Israel off the map. So I don't know how you can't reason with an ideology like that. I mean, you just can't, because you're sitting across the table and the other guy wants you dead. I mean, I don't know how you can
Right.
really have a conversation with that
okay,
person.
you got a bully in the neighborhood. How do you stop the bully in the neighborhood? You go punch him dead
Right,
square in
you
the
take the
nose,
fight to
and
him.
you show him.
No, dude.
we're not. If you want it, here it is.
I personally don't believe that's any way to handle that kind of situation as a Christian, at least.
You know,
Okay.
people are. That's what I'm saying. Just like we touched on, the potential for World War III, and everybody is scared to death of what that might look like. Because the fact of the matter is, and I've always said this,
Right.
and I still hold to it. I've always felt that I would see a limited nuclear conflict in my lifetime.
Yep.
I do. And that is the scary part.
Yep.
Because it doesn't take much for 20 million people to be dead in that kind of war. In a matter of
Right. And that's
minutes.
right. And the point that
I
I was,
mean-
and the point that I was trying to make is that I feel like there are certain circumstances that call for it, but I don't think you're going to get to people without loving them. I don't think you're going to really help somebody or really convert them or really help them see reason unless you show them some sort of love and peace and compassion.
I think the Muslim community has proven that they're not going to listen to that. They don't care about that, and you're never going to reach them through love.
Ian, I would agree with you in a world that, yes, we are meant to love one another. And I want that so bad.
Right.
But there are just people out there who are just evil.
You're right. And that's what I'm saying.
And-
And all I'm trying to say is that if there is a situation where someone will not see peace and will not see reason and will not see it and is going to force your hand into violence, I understand that, especially for the protection of your people, the protection of your family. I understand that, and I will wholeheartedly stand
And that's
by
what
that.
aggravates
That's where
me.
Israel
But I
is
don't.
right now.
but I
aggravates
don't
me so
think-
much about.
I don't think that the action of trying to kill more people just because we're upset is going to be able to fix everything.
Okay,
But
this
it's just-
isn't because we're upset. This is because a group of people
I know.
on Black September
All right.
came in. They paratrooped people into a peaceful music festival and killed over 200 Israeli and American
and
civilians.
took hostages
And
that
took
they're still
hostages
holding.
that they're still holding. Then they came into Israel and started raping the women,
Right.
started beheading babies. This is the time for violence because these people are not going to understand anything else.
And I don't believe that.
This talk about them behaving like animals is not fair to my dog or your kitty cat
Right.
because animals are better than those Hamas
Yes.
people.
Right.
I wish people would stop saying they're like animals. Most animals are peace-loving and
Right.
want to live in peace. My granddog just wants to be peaceful and be petted, and the cows out here in the pasture just want to be fed and cared
I
for.
like this. I have another question for you, and I think this can help. And we like to educate our people. What advice do you have for our listeners who want to engage in informed and respectful discussions about the Israeli conflict?
Well, my advice is to do as I just did earlier today in a meeting with the leadership of the Interfaith Federation that I and other clergy who have now passed helped to found back in 1986, and to seek out your imam, your pastor, your shepherd leader, and to encourage, as we did in our Interfaith Federation leadership today, have some very frank discussions. Seek out your rabbi, minister, priest, imam, leader, and encourage this kind of discussion. Come to synagogue, church, temple, and engage. Ask your clergy leader to get with other clergy leaders of different denominations and different faith expressions, and have groups, have dinner. I'm a big one on dinners because when there's food on the table and people share together over a meal, just a few households coming together can make all the difference. And it ripples out like the pebble in the pond. The ripples from our conversation today and the conversation just a few hours ago with leadership of our Interfaith Federation, it ripples out these good feelings. And I would love to see a rise in these kinds of gatherings in our homes, in our synagogues and churches. It can happen. I've been involved for 4 decades here with many of our listeners in helping peace come to our city. We went through a very lively desegregation process years ago. I and other clergy, some of whom have passed, were part of getting a consent decree to help public schools desegregate. It was a very trying time for our city, but we did it. And so this is a time for us all to try to gather, have dinners, have suppers, have lunches, as I'm going to with my friend from Gaza in just a day or two, and to discuss and respectfully honor our differences and all that we have in common as human beings.
Of course. And I think that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear that you were able to have people like that you can sit down with and talk with. And I love that you've even come here and been able to talk to us about all this stuff that's going on, because I think it's so interesting, because I feel like even myself, I don't think I know as much as I would like to about the Jewish community and about, your customs and where you stand and what you believe in. And it's been awesome that we've been able to have this conversation
I
for a little bit
I
today.
hope that I can return one day and we can talk about the precepts of Judaism.
Right.
I would love that.
That would be a great episode.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we're getting ready to wrap this up. I kind of feel it here.
If you want to, we stop
I
time
was
if you
just
want
going to thank you, Rabbi, for coming by. This has been incredibly enlightening for us and our listeners.
Thank you.
This is just crazy that this is happening, and we have to have this discussion. This shouldn't be happening. There should be peace. And as hardcore as I am about certain things, I think you know me. We've broken bread many times together, and I love people. And what I don't like is a bully. And I would rather sit down and have great conversations and have bread and eat and have good conversations. And I wish that's the world we live in. But right now, I think that's going to be a little hard pressed for at least a little bit of time. And but I really appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts with us. And
Thank
I
you.
would like to have
been an
another
honor.
episode. Yeah, and
It
thank
has been
you
an honor.
for what you've done for my hottie doctor Miranda and I together. We still love the fact that you married us.
I was honored to do so.
That was an amazing day. I still have the little glass where I had to break it and go Mazel Tov, and I have that up on the shelf there. And
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
So wow.
So I heard that you wanted to share in a closing of some kind. What did
You have a prayer for us.
Okay.
Yes. Ya'aseh shalom. May there be peace. My prayer for us and for all of our listeners and for all the world is that God will bless us all with the gift of peace, that God will help us come together in unity and peaceful accord, and that God will help to heal our broken world and help us find the way to have a peaceful relationship with one and all. May God bring peace to all of us and to all the world so that we can live amicably and lovingly together as one. May this be God's will for us now and always. Amen.
Amen.
Well, for anybody out there who would like to reach out to us, we do have a Facebook page /RetrospectPod, or you can reach out to our email address, which is getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, where you can give us your suggestions, or you can give us your comments and things like that. I know this is going to be a heavy one, and
We might get a couple
people
page responses on this
may
one.
have some pretty choice things to say. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Goodbye. Shalom and salam.
You're the best. Peace.